Coach, in North Carolina's first touchdown was a 74-yard pass. So
Yep.
what happened on the coverage breakdown?
Just a simple eye violation. Simple eye violation. Base coverage, no adjustments to it, just a simple eye violation. That's all I can tell you.
How did you feel about the overall defensive performance? They definitely seemed to settle into the game.
Well, I think there were a couple things. Number one is the sidelines have been really, really good in terms of communication, information we're getting from up top, the information we're getting from the sideline, the information we're getting from the players, which allows us to tweak things as we go through the thing. I think if you look at things, as we did settle down. I think the second half, this number may be a little bit off, but I think it was 140 yards total the second half with 2 field goals. And that's a pretty, they're hitting on all cylinders offensively, or have been all year. Going into the game they were. So that's, the big yardage output, big point output. So I think our guys did settle in. We made a few tweaks the second half in terms of what we did rush-wise. I think that contributed to the fact that in the second half, the numbers were, we hit him 8 times in which he threw the ball away, and then we sacked him 4 times. So we affected the quarterback better in the second half, and then coverage-wise, we had no miscues. So that was the difference in the 2 halves.
Coach Steele, I think your Pro Football Focus graded 4 of your defensive tackles, the top 5 players in this last game. And just curious, from your own eye, did you feel that way too, that those deep tackles really had a good game?
We played very solid up front. We had asked them, we had a very specific game plan because of the quarterback and the quarterback draw, and then the quarterback scrambles. Then their run game was, they're not a huge committed to the run team, but we played the run very well in there. We pushed the pocket, we collapsed the pocket to him, and then we affect him. Like I told you, those numbers of 8 hits in the second half and 4 sacks. That's 12 plays in which you affect the quarterback with the front, not the coverage, and that's huge. So those numbers speak for themselves.
Coach, the fourth quarter drive, the 8-minute drive, just the disappointment, get off the field, but what did you see on that drive?
It just came down to 2 things. Number one, we could have been probably a little more aggressive at that point in time, but then when you go aggressive, you're singled up coverage. And so and we covered a couple of times on, I think, a 3rd and 9 and a 3rd and 10 or 11, and they got 11 on the 3rd and 9 and 12 on the 3rd and 11, I think it was. So probably just a little tighter in coverage and get off the field on 3rd down. It really wasn't any chunk plays in the drive. It was 4 yards, 3 yards, 7 yards, and then a couple of the plays, and then the quarterback draw was in there in that, in which we got a little bit out of our rush lane. We were in match coverage, so we had our eyes away from him, and he got a good run on that. So it wasn't anything egregious in the drive. Probably I could have been more aggressive at that point in time where the score was in the game.
Yeah, Akeem Mesidor is, I think, graded out right now as like the 3rd best defensive lineman in the country. How have you seen him improve since he got to UM, and how has he kind of met or exceeded your expectations?
Well, no, we don't exceed expectations around here. You meet them, and when you meet them, we're going to raise them. So that's just the way that Coach Cristobal has it built, and Akeem will tell you that. He is a very, very intelligent young man. It's very important to him. He works very hard. Those are all buzzwords you've heard a million times. It's real. That's not a feel-good story. It's real. And so it's not a surprise that when you're that athletic and you're that strong and powerful, if you study the game like he studies the game, and then you play with the passion he plays with, it's not surprising.
And then similarly, Cam Casey's having a really good start to the year. I think 3 picks already. How have you seen Cam kind of develop over the course of the last year?
Well, again, another smart guy. Very, very high football IQ, very calm. I don't know if you've ever been around Cam very much, but he does not say very much. He's a kind of a calm, quiet guy. Loves to compete, and is kind of the quarterback back there in a sense, and that he studies it, he quarterbacks it, and he affects others in a positive way.
Coach, I'm sure you've been to Lane Stadium, Virginia Tech. What is that like, and what's your challenge this week there?
Well, the 11 guys on the field, that's the challenge. Been in a lot of different stadiums. There's not many of them that I've not been in the southeastern part of the United States, and that's a loud place to play. And so if they get momentum and get going, it can be really, really loud. So what we have to do is just block all that out. They're not going to let the fans play. I promise you. If they come on the field, they'll get a penalty. So we'll just make sure that we play against those 11 and execute, and then you can. It makes it a little quieter then.
Coach, Jafari Harvey leads the team in sacks. He has a whole bunch of pressures on top of that. How has he really emerged as the season has progressed so far this year?
Well, at spring practice, it was pretty evident that this guy's a special football player. He understands football at a coach's level. We talk about this, there's different stages in learning football. And some guys need walkthroughs, some guys need board, some guys need film, and then practice. And then some of them need all of it, some of them need some of it. And then every now and then you get a guy that's just kind of if you will, for lack of a better word, like a coach. You start talking football with him, and the video player starts playing. It's almost like he's got goggles on and watching it in real time. That's just the way it is. And so he's kind of got a coach's mind in that regard. He enjoys competition. He is a highly competitive young man, and that's evident in the way he plays.
Coach, that was the most we saw of Daryl Porter in terms of playing time. Daryl Porter Jr.
Right.
Just your thoughts on his play, and is it getting better as time progresses here?
Well, he's obviously a transfer, so been in a different system. He's adapted to the system, and then when two has gone down a couple of different times, and he's had to go in. I think that he's settled in now. He is settled in, and he's doing his job very well.
And what was the pass rush adjustment you alluded to a few minutes ago?
Well, you could see it on video because of the quarterback scrambles. I mean, he had really kept the chains moving in all the games of the past, the quarterback scramble. And we felt pretty confident that we could four-man rush him with our guys and push the pocket and make him throw from a well with guys on it. But we started the game out, and you probably see it if you watch it closely, that we spied a defensive lineman on him. So we were essentially, it looked like a four-man rush, but it was really a three-man rush. We were not affecting the quarterback very well, and he had a little bit more time. And so what we did is we just went to, and on our four-man rush, we were kind of cage rushing the guys on the edge, and that it was more speed to power, rather than just speed rushing. And so by that, I'm not trying to get technical, but we were really trying to make sure that we kept him in front of us. All right, and so we just cut it loose. We just said, hey, tackles, you're gonna have to push the pocket in his lap. We're gonna let the ends rush, and that's what we did.
Coach, you mentioned that Jafari Harvey has that coach's mindset. If you don't mind sharing, who are some of the other players in the defense that you would also say have that same?
Mesidor, Flag, DJ, TC. Those guys, I mean, they played a lot of ball, and that's usually when it comes along. James, James in the last 6 months has really taken that on. So I probably missed one or two there. Daryl Jackson's got that. I mean, he just, you can pass him in the hall and say, hey, look, now remember when this happens, and that's what you see on the field.
We'll do teamwork for Coach Steele. I've seen you out at local high school games. Without being specific, talk to us about the abundance of talent you've seen out there compared to other cities you've coached in.
Well, the thing about it is, other cities I've coached in, they always sent me to Miami recruiting. So I had Miami as my primary recruiting area starting in 1980. I think it was 85 or 86. So I've been coming here a long time. I've been going to high schools a long time here. So that answer is a little bit different. I mean, when you've got this many people in a condensed area, this many high schools, most of the college towns I coached in, you got one in the county, and you got one in 5 blocks, and then the next 5 blocks you got 2 more down here. And so when you go out recruiting, and the best way to say it is, number one is you say, well, how many schools can you hit in a day? Well, in Miami, you could really, in spring recruiting, hit 8 or 9 schools in a day, and that's not hard to do because it's not very far from South Miami to Delaware Prep or to, Killian, or it's a pretty short drive, or to Coral Gables High. It's a couple of blocks. And so you get out in some of the areas in the country and it's 60 miles to the next high school. So it tells you how many high schools they are here. They're all playing football at a high level. They're well coached. And so the numbers are up. And then what I call, and I say this affectionately before I even came to Miami, is the young men who play high school football here and the way they're coached here. High school football is very important, and they're extremely, extremely competitive. I mean, you throw a ball out in the backyard, you're gonna get a good game.
What have you seen from Virginia Tech's offense on the film that they showed?
The number one thing is, obviously, they're in their first year also, and they're putting their packages together. They are very similar offensively to what they do, to what we do. Josh and their offensive coordinator coached together at Penn State under Joe Moorhead, who was kind of the father of some of this. And so very similar in formation plays. There's a few wrinkles here and there. They're very well coached. They do have a go-to wide receiver. Their tight ends are very involved in the game. They're kind of running back by committee. The quarterback takes very good care of the football. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And then in their offensive line, probably the thing that jumps out the most is they're coached very well. They don't beat themselves.
Kevin, you obviously, you've been doing this for a long time, obviously. Do you remember having an issue like you're having right now with the cheap deep balls for touchdowns?
No.
Setting up touchdowns?
No. There's been 6 in 2 weeks. No.
Yeah.
And the thing that jumps out about it is it's not, you're searching for answers. And if you could say, well, we're in one coverage and it happens in this coverage, or when we get this person singled up on this person, it's happening. It's been cover 2, it's been cover 3, it's been man, it's been quarters, which are all base stuff that we've had huge reps at. So like I said before, I mean, we just gotta coach it better, have a better understanding of it, and because you see a lot of things out there. I mean, there's no play that looks the same, and there's a lot of different formations, a lot of different routes. So it's just almost strange how it's happened, but it's happened. It's real. We got to own it, and it's my job to get it fixed. And I do believe we will. I thought our guys did a good job of correcting it the other night. I mean, because you're sitting there thinking, based on the week before, then they come out and you have 2 of them happen. Think, oh, here we go again. We got another half of football to play. And it did not happen at all the second half. And they were running, the same guys running the same plays, and we were running the same coverage. So hopefully we got that fixed now.
In your experience,
Last question for Coach Steele.
in your experiences, year one, there's always that transition period, right? Before the kid really get it. How long does it usually take before you start to feel like everybody's comfortable with whatever it is you're running?
It's been different at different places. It has. A lot of it has to be with what you follow too. When I went to the last place I was at, the guy that I followed, we're from the same tree. So the transition was different. I have been when the transition was pretty, it was like oranges and apples. And so it varies. I know when we went to, the University of Alabama, obviously the second year was a conference championship game. So that was pretty quick.